Hello, and this is my review of the new Tesla Model 3 Performance. So the new Model 3 Performance was launched in the UK in June 2024, and it has a lot of styling improvements and mechanical upgrades, especially when compared to the first generation Model 3 Performance. This definitely looks a lot more purposeful than that model. Prices in the UK start from £59,990, and this car, due to the option extra of paint, is £61,290. So I just want to run through the list of changes that Tesla have made to this new Performance. It's sort of a quick hit list. So, as I said, we've got lots of design changes, which we will run through in a second. Brand new sport seats inside, which are super comfortable. They're ventilated and heated. There's new adaptive suspension for the first time on the Model 3 Performance, which is really good. It makes a lot of difference, and you can change between sport mode and normal mode inside, or comfort mode. It makes a noticeable difference to the ride and handling. There's also a new version 3 track mode, which unfortunately I can't test in this video, but there is a new drift mode and loads of customization in there. For the very first time on the Model 3 Performance, there's a new rear motor. So with the last generation Model 3 Performance, itself and the long-range all-wheel drive Model 3 both shared the same motor, but it was software limited on the all-wheel drive long-range model instead. But however, we have a brand new version on this Model 3 Performance. Bespoke suspension to the Performance model, and also much larger brakes, and this does stop very quickly. But now let's look at the front design. For the front design, the new Model 3 Performance has quite a lot of little design changes, but it does add up to quite a lot. If you put a Model 3 Performance next to a standard version, you'll see instantly the differences that the company has made to the design. It really works quite well. So first of all, we have got this quite iconic crease down here, which I quite like. So on the standard versions of the Model 3, this does extend the entire front of the vehicle, makes it look like a little smile. However, what the design team have done is they've ended the smile line just about here, and we have got these new creases in for the air ducts. So either side of the front end, got these new little air ducts which do actually pass air through, and they possibly help improve the aerodynamics, but also alleviate some air pressure from the front end. We also get this new front splitter, which adds to the sort of brutishness design of the front end, and it does work quite well. Elsewhere, the front end is the same really as any standard Model 3. I got the new slim headlights, the Frunk underneath here, which we will look at in a second, and also the Tesla badge too. Let me know what you think of the new Model 3 Performance design in the comments down below. Popping the bonnet or the frunk can be done from the software inside the Tesla, or it can be done on your phone using the Tesla app. This one's pretty good. It's on hydraulic struts, and there isn't any latch to actually click, so there's no sort of fumbling around with the latch there. Again, it's on hydraulic struts, which is a nice premium feature really, and we've got a really decent amount of space in here. It's pretty competitive in terms of its storage size, and it'd be big enough for duffel bags, like overnight bags, or just a Type 2 charging cable for charging your EV overnight or at hotels. So really impressive, and it's one of the unique features that Tesla had in the past, and now EV manufacturers are starting to catch up with their storage. Closing it is pretty simple. Just lean on the Tesla badge and it closes pretty easily. So the side design of the Model 3 Performance. As you can see, this whole car does sit a little bit lower than the standard models. It does aid to that nice driving experience, which we'll get to a bit later. This one's sitting on 20-inch forged wheels, which do come as standard on the Performance models, and you can also swap them out for any other wheels. All you have to do is go in the software and tell it what wheels you've got, and it will set itself up for that. It's pretty good. As you'll see, behind these wheels are some massive brakes. They're a lot bigger than they are on the standard Model 3 versions, and we also do get some red brake calipers, which helps distinctly let you know that it is the Performance version. For colours, we have got some quite nice options actually. Only one of them is free, so Stealth Grey is your free option, and every other colour is a paid version. So Solid Black is £1,300, as is Pearl White, and as is Deep Blue, which is this one here. This is going to be one of my favourite colours you can get the Model 3 in, that and also Ultra Red. Ultra Red is £2,000, and also Quicksilver is also £2,000 as well. Some definitely nice colour options there, and they do look quite classy, especially in this lovely blue colour. Now, one thing that people get a bit confused about with the Model 3 is the door. So all you have to do with the door here is put your thumb on this piece here, grab it with your hand, and it opens pretty easily. So there's no messing around with two hands to sort of do it that way, and you can do it one-handed very, very easily. It is very, very simple to do. The new Model 3 Performance now has a staggered wheel setup, which Tesla hasn't done in the past. It is slightly different to what, let's say, Porsche do. So what Porsche might do in that sort of scenario is have one size on the front, so let's say 20-inch alloys, and on the rear they might have 21 or 22. And that gives the rear end a bit more grip and a bit more feel in the corners. What Tesla has done is they've kept the same size alloys, so 20 inches on the front and 20 on the back. And what they have done is fitted different size tyres. So let's see. So what down here we have got is 275, 30, and then 20 inches. And on the front, what we have actually got instead is 235, 35. So that means the rear tyres are actually slightly wider, and also the profile is slightly larger as well. And that's, according to Tesla, should improve the handling, the turning performance. And what I can say is that the turning performance on a lot of the roads I've tested is really, really sticky, as I'll get to a bit later. One of the main benefits of buying a Tesla is the Tesla charging network and also the charging performance. This one could charge at 250 kilowatt DC, but the smaller battery pack can charge at 170 kilowatt DC. It also supports 11 kilowatt AC, and the WLTP range is 328 miles. Tesla also say that 142 miles can be added in only 15 minutes. Pretty impressive stuff. The charging socket is on the left-hand side of the vehicle. If you're looking at a bird's eye view of the car, got a CCS2 connector. Top one is for AC, so if you blank off that bit's for AC charging, Type 2 cables and that sort of stuff, so hotels or at home. If you use the combination at motorway services or at the Tesla superchargers, you've got full-on DC charging that way. This will eventually close by itself, or if you bring the Tesla connector to the car, it will open by itself and then it will close once you unplug it, and that closing mechanism is regardless of any charging socket you use. If you buy a Tesla in the United States, you will have the NACS connector. So if you are in the US, all of the Teslas over there have that smaller connector, and actually a lot of other EV manufacturers are starting to adopt that port too. For the rear design of the performance model, the changes are a little bit less significant than the front, I find. The front design has got all of those bodywork changes which make it look a bit more aggressive. However, this one has got about 3 different changes really. So we have got a new carbon fibre spoiler, which doesn't quite feel like carbon fibre. It almost feels like plastic, but it is carbon fibre. There's also a new splitter down the bottom with some different changes and these larger fins, which make it look a little bit more aggressive than the standard versions. And then also this new performance badge. So Tesla now uses 3 different badges for their different performance models or different launch models. So this one is the Model 3 Performance with this sort of like star effect. You get the plaid badge on the Model S and the Model X plaid, which is like a sort of a patchwork design. And then on the Model Y launch edition, which was launched a few weeks ago, you get that new rising sun sort of yellow and orange effect, which looks quite nice. Now you can open the boot in a few different ways. So you can press the button on the back there. You can also open it from your phone on the Tesla app. You can open it from a button on the touchscreen, but also if you've got the Tesla app on your phone and you use the mobile key, you can also just stand behind the car for a few seconds and it should open by itself. It doesn't always work first time, but it is there if you want it. So in here we have got 628 litres of boot space, and we can also fold these seats down, which improves the practicality a little bit. What I find really impressive about the four-wheel drive version of the Model 3 is the packaging design. So typically in cars that have four-wheel drive or EVs that have four-wheel drive, you lose a bit of boot space, which is always a bit of a trade-off. However, with this one, we still do have that iconic massive boot sort of dropped floor in the back of the car. So really, really good. And the packaging design is obviously one of the things that they've done really, really well. Another thing I really like is the sort of the side pockets you get. So imagine you bought some milk from the supermarket and you want to put it in the back of the car, but you don't want it rolling around the whole place. These pockets in the back restrict that from happening, and it just adds a little bit of security in the back of the car without having to have a custom boot separator design thing. We can also, as I said, fold these seats down and get a bit more practicality. So let's do that now. So now with the seats folded down, you can see we've got a nice big opening there. And actually, really, compared to other cars I've tested, the opening space underneath this sort of wall section is actually quite generous. Something like the Hyundai Ioniq 6, for example, had quite a restrictive boot opening, so it was smaller than the boot opening itself. So this one looks a pretty good space. Lastly, one other thing I've noticed is this piece of cloth, which you can pull to manually release the charging socket, which is really good. So if a charging connector gets stuck while you're charging and the software release isn't working for any reason, you can at least do a manual override and release that if you need to. So for the front interior of the Model 3 Performance, the changes made include a few different items. So the first one is this new carbon fibre piece on the dashboard, which, just like the spoiler at the back, is actually real carbon fibre, and it is the same sort of material, so that's quite nice. In the standard models, this is like a cloth material, which again looks quite nice, but it adds a little bit of a sporty feel to the interior. Also, we get these brand new sport seats with some little performance badges which do light up at night time, which is quite nice. And these sport seats are ventilated and heated, and they have a lot of side bolstering, and it does seem quite robust in terms of its materials used, and it should hopefully last a long time. I'd imagine getting in and out of the car every time, you do lean on that bolstering, but this one is about a year old, and it does seem to have held up pretty well over time. We also do get some aluminium pedals, which add a bit of a nice feel to the interior. And that's about it in terms of the performance add-ons. It is quite minimalist in terms of its approach, but everything else in this interior is the same as it would be in the standard Model 3 options. So we do get a 15.4-inch infotainment screen. Tesla is really, really well known for their software design, the simplicity of how everything is done, and it really, really does work quite well. I did get the chance this week to go on a journey and then go back home again, but it asked me to stop off somewhere. And by the time I went to these services, was halfway through in the bathroom, it had just messaged me on my watch to say, look, I finished charging, you can now go home. But I did leave it a few minutes extra, but that ecosystem does work quite well, actually. If you want a full in-depth guide on this infotainment screen, the Tesla app, but also the rear screen, there's a link now in the top right corner or the description down below, where I take a really, really in-depth look at how this software works. But again, it does work really well. You've got options for the built-in sat-nav, the dash cam, zoom, because there is an interior camera here, Audible, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and this is all how you control the climate control. So we've got these adjustable air vents and a whole host of features which I haven't got time for in this video, but it is fantastic. Obviously, no heads-up display. There's no display for the driver. Everything is done from this touchscreen, including the gear changes. In old Teslas, there'll be two stalks here, one for the gears, one for the wipers and lights. And then on this one, everything is now on the steering wheel. So the indicator buttons, the lights, the camera button, the wipers, everything is done from the steering wheel. Tesla has backtracked slightly with the new Model Y, where we do have a new stalk for the indicator controls, which does add a little bit of simplicity back. But to be honest, after a few days of driving the car, I've got perfectly used to it. It is perfectly fine. Down here, we've got two wireless phone charging pads, which work really, really well. There's no specific location needed to charge a phone, so that's really, really simple. We've got a nice big bin, a lot of storage in there, which is quite good. And also the 12-volt socket is in there. We have got these nice retractable covers, which line up quite nicely, and that gives you a bit more privacy, and also two decent sized cup holders, and again that same sort of cover, which adds a bit more of sort of a tray table for when you have McDonald's in the car. So really, really good there. Underneath the central armrest, which feels like it's done with magnets, we have got one USB-C port, and that's for charging devices and various stuff. And what's quite nice is there is a pass-through opening, so you can feed cables through if you want to charge something else via USB-C, and then there's a decent amount of space, and it does go in there quite far. There's a tiny LED light to show you what to do. We do have a glove box in here, which isn't massively obvious, and what we can do is open the glove box from the screen here. So that opens up quite easily. It is held up with magnets, and there is a decent amount of space in there for whatever you need. And there is also a USB drive in there for the dashcam footage, and that is stored on the USB memory stick in there as well. So that is basically locked, so if the car does get stolen, and you have got a PIN code to drive set up, no one can access your footage. It is stored on a USB drive. That's pretty much out of the way. One thing that's really impressive with this interior is the speaker system. So this one does have the premium audio package. We do have 17 speakers. The speakers absolutely everywhere. The speakers here, speaker on the dashboard there, the speaker in the very rear, got some big speakers in the boot section, and it sounds amazing. It is very comparable to having two HomePods for your TV setup at home. It sounds amazing. So if you ever go and test drive a Tesla Model 3, make sure it's got the premium sound package and test out your favorite tunes. It does work really, really well. Just looking up here, we have got a physical button for the hazards. So by law, Tesla can't have the hazard switch on the screen. It has to be somewhere physical, even though this is haptic. So that's how you turn on the hazards. And also just up here, we have got some buttons. So if I press the brake pedal, there are some buttons up here, the sort of override buttons for controlling the gears. So you can put it into drive, neutral, reverse, and also park. And it is whinging that I haven't got my seatbelt done up. So that's that. There we go. And those are basically there if the touchscreen doesn't work. And we have also got two sun visors with some little magnetic covers and some little LED lights. And it all is fairly decent. What's quite nice is this is held on with magnets. So we can do is move that anywhere we want to, out the way and over to the side, and just clip that back in place with a magnet if you want to as well. Obviously, this one's got a massive panoramic sunroof, like all Teslas tend to have now, and it does have a blue tint to it, so it's not going to let in all the heat, but it does provide a nice airy cabin, and it is one of the things I do like on the Teslas, which is quite cool. For the back seats in the Model 3 Performance, there's actually nothing different between the Performance version and the standard Model 3. It's pretty much exactly the same. The only difference is these big bucket seats where you can see in front of you, so they add a little bit of a different sort of look and feel to the interior. Everything else is exactly the same. So what we have got is a really good sense of quality back here, like the new version of the Model 3. So really nice soft and plush seats with heating, no ventilation on these ones. That is reserved for the front seats only. Nice Alcantara and some LED lighting on the door panels. And again, a really good sense of quality as well. Got a nice speaker grille here, and the door bins are full of cloth and lined on every surface inside there, which is really nice to see. Some other cars don't tend to have that, even in the back seats. The materials on this door handle here is really nice and plush and really, really soft as well. Now, the main issue with the back seats in the Model 3 is the headroom. So I'm not overly tall, I'm 5'7", and if you are taller than me, which is very, very likely, that you're going to have a bit of a hard time back here. So if I sit up completely in the seat, like, there's so little headroom there, and it's really, really not great. If you are about 6 foot, you're going to have a bit of a problem, I think. What you might have to do is completely slouch in the seat like this, and then you have got a bit of usable headroom. So it isn't that great, really. So there is that problem. The legroom itself is fairly decent. I always find in the back of Model 3 that the sitting position's so strange. So obviously this is a saloon car, and this performance model does sit quite low anyway. So the amount of headroom they've got to play with in terms of the floor is a little bit limited. Again, I always find that I'm squatting in the seats. It doesn't feel quite as comfortable as other vehicles, and it's just in other EVs really. It just seems a little bit strange. Underneath the driver's seat, I've got just enough room for my feet, so I can tuck them underneath there. This driver's seat is set up for my driving position, so in terms of legroom here, but also the height of the seat, I tend to sit really, really low down, especially in this version of the Model 3, because it helps improve the driving engagement. So I'd imagine if you do sit a little bit higher, then the back seats might have a little bit more room in terms of their feet room, but overall it's fairly decent. Just looking on the bench here, again, really nice and soft supportive seats. We have got this middle seat here with the sort of armrest and the cup holders. It doesn't seem to want to go down as much as you want it to, but again, decent sized cup holders, the same sort of ones you get in the front, and they have got these weird like grippy things to hold cups in place, and that system works really, really well. I wish other manufacturers would adopt these grippy things rather than trying to make awkward sized cup holders and you can't fit anything in them. And then lastly, down here, and because this is the new Model 3, we have got a 8-inch touchscreen for the passengers. Now what you can do is have your kids be entertained. It is a weird viewing angle, so it's you're almost looking down in the middle there, so it is a bit of a strange viewing angle. It would have been better to have some on the headrest here, but there's lots of controls. You can move the passenger seat forward and back if you want to, which is quite nice. You can control the music. You can watch videos like YouTube and Netflix and Twitch. You can also play some games. So if you've got some controllers, you can play games together. And there are some different settings here, so you can control the brightness and add Bluetooth headphones. Your kids can connect their own Bluetooth headphones to this screen and then watch their own videos if they want to, which is quite nice. So all really, really good and really practical. If you haven't got children and no one uses the back seats in your car, It does feel a little bit of a waste, but there is that option there if you want it. Also, 2 USB-C ports for charging devices, and in my experience, they're really, really high powered and they charge a device really, really quickly. I mean, my camera for filming requires a fast charge, and these can charge that camera really, really well. So really, really impressed with that. One last thing, just at the top here in this column piece, there's 2 LEDs either side, which is quite nice, and then also a touch sort of activated door coat hook there, which is quite cool. And then just the other side of this column, there is a vent. That looks like a speaker, but it is actually a cooling fan for the antennas and modems which live in the top here. The Model 3, like any other Tesla, has a phone connection, sort of a data SIM, and you obviously need an antenna for that. So the antenna lives in the roof, and to prevent it from overheating, because it is quite high powered, there is a vent in place for that as well. So back seats are really, really good. The Model 3 was already an incredibly good car to drive. It was so responsive to your steering inputs. Even the standard range model was quite fast. Now, this performance model has an absolutely insane amount of performance, hence the name. We have got 460 horsepower and unofficially over 500 pound-foot of torque. Tesla hasn't published a torque figure for this, but there's some stuff online which I found that suggests it's got over 500 foot-pound of torque. So just based on those numbers alone, it's incredibly impressive. So this performance model has a few different software differences between the standard models, even the long-range models, because this one has got more horsepower and more capability when it comes to cornering and those different things. As I mentioned earlier, we have got different dampening, we have got a different suspension, we've got staggered wheels, we've got sports tyres on this particular one, and there's so many mechanical changes and little tweaks that Tesla's made to make this handle really, really well, and it definitely does. So at the moment, I've got this in chill mode, and it doesn't accelerate that fast, so it's a bit of delay, and I would liken that to the standard range model with the less powerful motor and that sort of stuff. Definitely that kind of car, I think. So this one's got chill, standard, and then insane, which used to be called ludicrous. So they've changed the naming a little bit. And then also, because the Model 3 has, or this performance model has adaptive suspension now, which is quite impressive. It's got 2 different suspension modes. We've got standard and then sport. The sport mode is a bit jiggly. The changeover between the 2 modes is very, very apparent. So if we click on sport, I can feel more bumps now. So it's such a quick change when you do it. But let's have a look what it says. So the sport mode will feel more controlled on back roads and apparently give you more engagement. So there is that option as well. And it is quite stiff, as the cameras will probably pick up. Now, when we put it in insane mode, the acceleration is 2.9 seconds to 60. And yeah, it's unlike anything I've experienced before. Obviously, there is the Model S Plaid, which has about 1,000 brake horsepower, but in terms of cars that are available in the UK, this is now the fastest accelerating Tesla that you can buy in the UK. Obviously, in the US, you can still get the Model S. One other thing we can customise on the Model 3 is the steering weight. So we've got the choice of light, standard or heavy. The steering's quite light anyway in the light mode. It could be a tad lighter, but unlike the Cybertruck, this doesn't have steer-by-wire. It's simply the standard steering column. So the amount you can adjust it can be a bit limited. So let's look at standard, and yeah, there's a little bit more feel, not much though. And when you put it in heavy mode, it definitely is, I'd say that's quite nice. It's quite a nice weight to it. It gives you a bit more confidence when you turn into a corner that it is going to do what you want it to do. So obviously it depends on what you want, but the heavy mode is quite nice actually, especially on some of the B roads we're on today. So let's stick the car in insane mode, and instantly the position on the throttle is doing a lot more for me, and the regen is slightly stronger as well. Let's kick the car into sport mode suspension as well. So just to recap, we've got the steering in heavy, the ride and handling in sport, and then acceleration in insane. And the turning and the lack of body roll is just, it's next level stuff. So I'm going to go into this corner quite quickly here. and just the lack of drama is just so it's so driver orientated. Any other car you drive, it would just have a bit of body roll and not be too happy at doing it, whereas this, it just sticks into the corners, and it's just not phased about doing what you're asking it to do, especially at 60 miles an hour. It's very, very, very impressive. 0 to 60 in this one is handled in 2.9 seconds, which, when I was growing up and watching Top Gear and stuff, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds was the rite of passage of supercars. There's no way you'd expect 10, 15 years ago that a four-door electric family car that could do this kind of thing. It handles really, really well, and I believe it does go up against its combustion rivals like the BMW M3. It offers that level of driver engagement that you wouldn't expect an electric car to have. So just turning into this corner here, I'd say 50 mile an hour around this corner now, and there's so little drama about asking it to do that. It's so good. Now, because this one is the performance model, you might expect that the range and efficiency is going to be absolutely awful, but it isn't. We've still got quite a large battery, and I've been getting over 4 miles per kilowatt hour when I've been on the motorway, still in insane mode, and yeah, been absolutely happy about doing that. I did a couple of hours the other day, and I was getting nearly over 4 miles per kilowatt hour. The WLTP range is a bit lower than it is on the other models. This one's about 328 miles, so it is a little bit down compared to the Tesla models with the same battery pack. But the trade-off with the large wheels, that's going to impact it a little bit. Also, that more powerful rear motor, they all add up a little bit to give you a little bit less range, but it isn't awful compared to what you might expect. Now, the Model 3 Performance does have quite an extensive track mode. I'm not going to test it in this video because, one, I haven't really got a place to test it, and two, you're not supposed to use it on the public road. But it does have quite a lot of extensive options to do with customizing the level of oversteer, the level of understeer, and a load of different functions like that. And when you do activate the track mode, it does have a lot of stats available for battery temperature, motor temperature, and all those important things which you might want if you are driving this on a track. So it's quite nice to see a dedicated track mode on the Model 3, because I'd imagine not many people are actually going to use it, but it is nice that they've developed it for those customers that want to do it. Turn in. Just the amount of grip. And these sports seats are holding you in really, really, really well as well. Massive improvement over the last gen Model 3 Performance, which had the standard seats. So it's quite nice to see that Tesla have gone to the work to develop some more sports-focused seats to hold you in a bit better. Really, really good idea. So I just want to look at the comfort and the wind noise and all the road noise that goes with that sort of thing. I have got it in sport mode, so we'll put it back in standard, and the suspension just gets instantly slightly better. Yeah, just a lot softer in terms of its approach. Wind noise is fine. The Model 3 had a lot of sound deadening and sort of sound improvements with the new version, and this has obviously got those improvements as well. And it's very well isolated from the outside world when you're on the motorway and doing motorway speeds. So even with those larger wheels, there isn't really much wind noise and road noise that comes in. There is a little tiny bit because it is electric and you are going to hear things that you might not hear in a combustion car, but for what this is and what wheels it's sitting on, it is really, really quite quiet in here. It's quite impressive. One thing I quite like on the Model 3 is the new auto shift. So I'm going to turn you into here to turn round. And what you'll see on the screen is, because I've come up against something here, you'll see on the screen it says turn to the left and then press the brake to activate reverse. So I've turned the wheel. All you need to do, it'll reverse for you, and it says again to activate the drive, press the brake, which I've just done, and then turn the wheel to the right, and that will activate the drive for you. So that's the auto shift beta, which I've got enabled. You don't have to have it turned on, but it makes the experience of using a car without a gear stick that little bit easier. It would have been nice to have a physical gear stick. Even the new Model Y doesn't seem to have that either. The indicator stuff, as I mentioned earlier, doesn't bother me at all. Whenever I've driven a new Model 3 about 3 times now, and every time it gives me, I'd say 2 hours roughly maybe less, to get used to the buttons for the indicators. The only time it does crop up is round roundabouts, but once you know which one to press when it's upside down, it's not really that much of an issue. And again, as I did mention earlier, the new Model Y does now have that stalk again, which makes life a tad easier. But it's fine. It's not awful. But it would be nice to have a stalk again. So I'm just going to test the 0 to 60 now. I haven't got much road to play with, but because this does 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, it's not too much of a massive issue. So I've got the acceleration in insane mode. So let's give this a go. So 3, got left foot on the brake. Okay. So let's give this a go. So 3, 2, 1, go. Jesus Christ. There's 60. Wow, That's incredible. I'm actually stunned. That left me speechless. I'm going to have to do that again in a second. Jeez Wheeze. I haven't got any words for that. That's absolutely mental. I've actually got no words to say. It really does shove you back in the back of your seat. And I'd imagine if you're a passenger and not expecting it, that's probably quite bananas. What's weird is it doesn't like both pedals pressed at the same time, because that says it reduces the motor power. Because in a combustion car, when you do that kind of thing, that's basically how you initiate launch control usually. So let's stop again and do that. Right. 3, 2, 1, go. Christ. That's 60 already. That's so quick. So quick. So what do I think of the Tesla Model 3 performance? Well, considering every version of the standard Model 3, the non-performance models, were already really, really impressive in terms of handling alone. That was a big improvement from the old version to the new version. Just the way this thing drives is really, really impressive. And that's without considering the fact that this is the performance version. The Model 3 had really, really impressive range, really good charging speed, the benefit of the Tesla network, and the interior, while it is a little bit plain in places, is actually really good quality, and that touchscreen is the main selling point of the car, and also that app, without mentioning just about everything. The performance model does really take this car to another level in terms of performance, handling. I'm really impressed that Tesla haven't just slapped in a really powerful motor and called it a day. The engineers have done a lot of work dynamically to the car. So the suspension, it's sitting a bit low. We've got staggered wheels now. And just all the mechanical changes that the company has made take this car, again, to another level. So if you are an enthusiast that wants something really, really fun to drive, and one that you can drift on a closed circuit, then definitely go and test drive this performance. It is a bit of a premium over the other models, and you are losing a bit of range to gain that extra performance, but I do think for the right person it is definitely worth it. My only little gripe is the plainness of the interior. Obviously that minimalist look is not going to be for everyone, but personally I do prefer an interior that's got a little bit more going on, but I can 100% appreciate that people do like that interior. It is, as I said, really, really well built. The tech is the main selling point of this car, and just the way that infotainment works is no one else is doing anything that good really, and it's so slick. However, I'd love to know what you think about the Tesla Model 3 performance in the description down below. My name's Alex. Please consider subscribing to Interface Cars, and I'll see you next time.